Don's right. I mean, looking at this, and I've been watching this whole thing around the Prysm stuff develop for some time, but on that cruise was the first time we were able to see something as a whole and get into spend days with the people there where you can, the reason they do that is so we can spend a lot of time with them and really ask whatever questions we need, and it got me excited enough where I was been out doing this roadshow around Eastern Australia for the last week or so that I haven't done in 5 years. And whilst Don's right about the sort of being semi-retired, sadly I sometimes find people who tell me they're working, and I realise I do more before lunch being semi-retired than some of them do, so I don't know about, you've got to actually do stuff to build a business. So that's why I want to cover this. And what I see, what I'm going to talk about, I see it as an incredible ground floor business, just as big as when I first saw New Skin when I was living up at Rangeville and building this business in a shed in the backyard, and once a month doing meetings in this very room. It was kind of weird deja vu to come back in here. But it would sound weird if we started adding up the amount of business that actually came out of this room, because it's in the tens of millions of dollars. So it's maybe it's a lucky sign or something to do it. But I'll start in on this. Biohacking is a term that's been getting some traction lately, especially online as a term, and it's trendy. And I normally am not Mr. Trendy, but I tell you what, I like that one as a term because it accurately describes what we're all doing all the time. We do it in different ways. People decide that, oh, I want to take control of my health and stop smoking or whatever it is, you know, lose weight, put weight on, do something. That's a biohack, really. Oh, if I lost 20 kilos, it'd change, right? And it really is, and I can remember back to a number of years ago, and I was about 140 kilos, and I decided I didn't want to be that, right? So I changed a lot of things and lost a lot of weight, 40 odd kilos, something like 45, something. Anyway, that's biohacking. It's making a change, and that change then affected my other health and probably helped my life thing, you know, because that's about 45 kilos heavier than I am now. So, you know, it's a fair bit to lug around, and 20 years later, I'm 20 years older. I don't want to be lugging that around at 20 years older because it gets harder and harder and harder. But you can take it to different things. Maybe it's the smoking, maybe it's this, maybe it's that you don't get enough fruit and veg, maybe it's something else, maybe it's that you've got a real high stress job and it's tearing you apart, and you say, what am I going to do? Well, if you change jobs perhaps. And that's what that refers to. It's taking the things that can really make a difference. And I'll talk a little bit about this book as well. But from a business point of view, there's different people. This is a thing from Boston University that basically talks about that there's around 16% of people who get in on things early. And in some cases, like consumer things, they're the people that line up outside the Apple store when they release the new iPhone or something, you know. I'm the guy that goes, what do you mean they've got a new one? Mine was Model 10, that must be pretty new, and they all laugh. You know, my daughters laugh at me because they're on 16 or 17 or something. And so I give them a credit card and they get me a new one. But that's, I'm the laggard on things like that, but on business I'm not. And when I first saw New Skin, and I was introduced to New Skin living in Toowoomba and working with Don, and once I saw it and learned about it and got excited about it, I was introduced by a guy from Canada. When he first called me about it, he was a friend of the family. I didn't know him, but my mum and his mum knew each other. I was so uninterested you wouldn't believe. I was looking for a business. I did not want to stay at Elders. It was a disaster area if you wanted to go anywhere for the future. But I couldn't see this. This wasn't a real business. When I asked him about it and I found out it had something to do with direct sales and skincare products, are you serious? I'm used to looking at the back end of cows, not the front end of ladies. And people go, and Don remembers that at elders they'd laugh and I'd be the lipstick bloke and all this stuff. And I remember seeing a guy years later who used to call me the lipstick guy and stuff, and are you still doing that lipstick thing? And I had the great pleasure 20 years after I left there of hiring him to sell about $1 million of property for me. And I was like, I wasn't nasty about it, but underneath I was like, there was a little bit of me that was being a bugger, I gotta say. But what Don knows, they weren't particularly kind about it. Where's your pink dress today? And that sort of stuff. But what I saw was a business that was going to take off. And either by good luck or good management, I was somewhat right. New Skin today does about $80 million a year in sales inside Australia, and they do about $2 billion worldwide. So with this being a ground floor thing that we're going to talk about, it's a ground floor business opportunity, but it's inside a business that's been around for 40 years, that hasn't gone broke, that's got plenty of money to build this. They put over $200 million into this project in the last 18 months. Just this Prysm project I'm going to talk to you about. So you guys get to be in this area when you hear about it. Whether you do something about it or not, it's completely up to you. My own belief is that this could double our business in 2 years in Australia very easily, as it does. The Prysm. The world's moving more and more towards these devices, wellness type devices, and have them be so intelligent. We became the world's largest seller of beauty and wellness devices, at-home devices, right? I remember when we launched this thing called the Lumi Spa. There's one over there somewhere probably. And it's like a deep cleansing little thing for your face. Works amazingly well. When we launched it, I was in the States when we launched it, and a friend of mine over there, he's a pretty successful business guy, he says to me, it won't work. I said, why won't it work? He says, Clarisonic's got that market sewed up, my wife's got one. And I said, righto. We were actually in the company headquarters. I said, why don't you buy one of these for your wife? He can afford it. I said, why don't you buy one of these for your wife? I said, you can use my number and get it wholesale. And I said, you take it home and see which one she likes. If she doesn't like this, better bring it, give it back, I'll pay you. Oh, all right. Didn't talk to him for about a month. Then we're talking on Messenger one night. Oh, you know that thing? Yeah. He said, she threw out the other one. I said, yeah, isn't that funny? I said, I think it might work. Well, guess what? A couple of years later, Clarisonic stopped selling them because we took the market off them, because we got stuff that works. We know what to do in this device space, and where the area is going is right on the wellness side, and we're going to lead into that. We got the credibility of over 20 years of science around this whole measuring thing that can really truly help people, not just flog stuff. It's great to flog stuff to make money, but if you really want to make something last, it's got to really help people. Things that really help people actually can last. So from a business point of view, they're good. You're better off with something that's real. If the restaurant's really good with really good food, they don't have to spend all their money on marketing. So I want to cover 4 things as I go through. I want to talk a little bit about the opportunity, not so much that's provided for Prysm, the solution, a little bit about the company, and a little bit about the business model. This is the opportunity. The global wellness market right now is over 6 trillion. That's like 12 zeros. Is it 10 or 12 zeros? It's too many for me. I wouldn't mind it, but it's too many for me. And that's where it's predicted to go. Look, just as only in the next, in a 4-year period, it's growing at a rate And why is it doing that, right? Because the world's aging. And as people get older, they want to feel better. They're getting tired, they're getting this, they're getting aches in the morning, they're getting all that stuff. They want to feel better. There's 8 billion people in the world, but the world as a whole, with the exception of a couple of countries like India, it's actually getting older. And there's these, what's happened, research has shown that there's 5 spots around the world where people live to be over 100 healthily. Much more often, they're not, in a wheelchair in the aged care with a tube coming out of them. These are healthy 100-year-olds. These places around the world are what's called the Blue Zone. If you want to know a lot about it, there's a fantastic documentary on Netflix called Blue Zone. If it's still on there. And it actually goes to these places. There's been tons of science done on it. We actually spent, we've been using, actually spent 3-4 years developing a product that we sell in Australia called, under the name Y-Span, short for youth span. That was developed totally around research from those 5 zones of why those people live longer. It was our first anti-aging supplement as opposed to creams for wrinkles and things like that. It was deliberately focused at anti-aging. What people are finding is as people are living longer, what started to happen, at first people were healthy as they lived a bit longer, but what started to happen is the gap starts to do this. People are getting older, but none of us want to, people say, I don't want to live to 100 because they have a picture of someone gaga, drooling in a chair. If you were healthy and happy, hey, the great example in the room. Tina and Sabrina's dad, Ian, is 100 in what, 2 or 3 months?
104th of December.
Right? A few months. The guy's healthy, he does Facebook videos, for God's sake. He did the most intelligent explanation on the solar panels the other day. They should send it to the Environment Minister because he sure makes more sense than him.
Bought a new car a few months back.
As you do, right? How long's the warranty? I wouldn't be buying green bananas at 99. But the gap's getting wider and people are wanting health span. Really what we want isn't to live longer, it's to live longer better.
Yes.
We want to stay healthy as long as we can. You've got this global wellness industry that's out there $6 trillion. It's just, and it's being driven by this whole thing about aging and oxidative stress. Because what happens with oxidative stress, people talk about free radicals, that's oxidative stress in the body, causes chronic inflammation. And that's actually what that Y-Span works on, is reducing that. That's why it's an anti-aging product and it works so well. But this is a big area. So what's the solution? It's not just taking a few pills, much as we'd like it if you bought our pills. But that's not just the solution. It's this biohacking, it's been able to do it. But how do you do that if you can't measure and you can't know what's going on? Now our chief scientist, Joe Chang, wrote a book a few years ago called The Aging Myth that became a New York Times bestseller. And it is really the premise of the book, is that you can make a difference. You're not your genes, in other words. You are, but you can change them. Let's say you had, I'll give you an example, family example. Because people say, oh, my family, this always happens. All right, so you're not going to do anything. So in my family, on my mother's side, the women usually would, for the past 3 to 4 generations, would die in their 60s. The men would die in their 50s. It was not a great genetic pool, I can tell you, My dad's side, the women would die in their 60s, so it wasn't great. But the men would live into their late 70s, so it was pretty good for the time. Now, my dad died 2 years ago, 93 years old, 6 weeks before he died. He drove himself across Sydney. Let's not see how many pedestrians were killed in that drive. But he drove himself across Sydney and played 9 holes of golf.
Wow.
Now, Mum said when he got home, he did about drop dead, but that's incredible. So he lived well till pretty late. My mother, who's just moved to Brisbane, is coming up to 94, is in great health. I was on a phone call with her on Monday with a stockbroker, because she gets me to help with things, and she picked up 2 things on her investment statement that he had missed. So, and she's got no major health issues other than being frail and slow, moving around. And why? They've both taken our supplements for 25 years. They've both increased, and they both used to go over to our office in Sydney, which was only 15 minutes from their house, and get measured on the biophotonic scanner, which is this, which we'll get into a little bit. Now, the genetics would say the chances of both of them living that long and healthily are against them. But they've taken steps. Perfect? No, not at all, but they've taken steps. Your dad and your mum were on these supplements for the same sort of length of time. And both of them, your mum died what?
93. She was 93.
She was 93 when she went. And she
wrote 2 books just before.
Oh, wow.
See what now, am I saying we caused that? No, but that's biohacking at its best. You can make the difference. Each one of these, as you see the screen, is a different published scientific study that we've put out since we started the company. I can literally leave this up for 10 minutes and it's going to keep going. They're all different. It's not scrolling around and coming back. There's hundreds of them. These are not in-house things that said we took 2 employees and gave them a pill. They said they felt better. This is real ones that were published in the scientific community. And it's got all of the stuff there, the background. So if you're into that, you can bore yourself ragged reading scientific reports. We will give you a link to all of them. So health span's really about quality of life that includes a huge amount of things, right? It's not just one thing. And sometimes we go to people and they say, oh, it's all about this one thing or that one thing. Science doesn't actually back them up on that. It's a whole lot of things because we're all different. But really, a lot of it comes down to these 4 things. Healthy diet, lifestyle, body composition, and supplementation. About half of Australian adults take a supplement. But virtually none of them know if it does any good or not, but they spend money on it. So you've got these 4 components of your health span, right? And we want to be able to help people in all of them. Now, that's where we will make the money, as in selling stuff, but it makes us money if we can create a community where we're helping people in all those things, because there's going to be a higher trust relationship with us. This fascinates me, and it goes to the area of personalised wellness as we move around the world. Look at the top and look what changes as the colours. This is how many people are deficient in these things. Tell me we don't need supplements. Because this is based on the Lancet. Does anyone know what the Lancet is?
British Medical Journal.
It's the British Medical Journal, right? It is the source. It's the British equivalent of New England Journal of Medicine. They're the 2 leading ones in the world. This is from them. We didn't make this stuff up. It just keeps going. It's incredible the levels of malnutrition around the world, and that's not just not getting enough to eat, it's the quality of. So if people can't measure, how can they tell if what they're eating, what they're doing is working? They can't. Oh, I think it is. I feel a bit better, I think. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. It's hard to say. But if we want to find out about our cholesterol, we go to blood work. If we want to get our blood pressure, we either buy a little home blood pressure thing and we test and measure it, or we go to the doc and someone else tests and measures it for us. The same with a lot of things we do. And what this is about is giving you a score, but shrinking it down to something that's literally fits in your pocket. That will give you accurate measurements so you can then act on it. Back 20 years ago, we released this, and I was very involved with bringing this into Australia. We released this into Australia. It was really a big version of this. Took an hour to warm up every time you did it. You could only scan people for a couple of hours and you had to actually shut it down. It would only work between about a 20-degree temperature range. Fahrenheit, 20 degrees, 10 degrees and so on. It was, I remember your sister packing one in ice to cool it on a hot day so we could get it to work. I mean, it was tough. Was it accurate scientifically? Yes. Was it easy to use or practical for a business sense? No. They improved it and shrunk it a lot. These were, our cost of manufacture is about 20,000 US for these, about 10,000 for these, about 5,000 for these. So we could, the problem we had is we could measure, but we couldn't get it out to the world. Because we've never had more than 1,000 or 2,000 of these in the whole world operating at once. It's very limited. There's under 100 in Australia. So how can you get that out to the masses? It's great, but it didn't work from a business development point of view. Imagine when you can take something that actually does more than this out, that's more stable because new technology allows us to use LEDs instead of lasers. It's much easier to calibrate, and this will do the measurements. And just by putting someone's finger on it, like that, for 15 seconds. And when that happens, it gives you a score. Now this is a prototype. If you do want to get scanned and get an accurate score of stuff, use this one later. But, okay, there's my score.
You're in the
That's
purple.
around there. I compared it the other day in Sydney because they were all laughing, oh, that won't be right. I said, put me on that. 96,000. Why? I actually do take our products. I need to sell a lot of them because, my God, I got to pay for them all.
So can you just tell me what that
This is called Prysm.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what it measures and what it does
Yeah,
as we
yeah.
go along.
Thank you.
Yep. So, over the years, we have measured 15 million different people on this. And out of that, we've ended up with 26 million scans because some people get scanned more than once to check their progress. We've been now able to take that 26 million records, essentially sat in a basement in a file cabinet, figuratively. 18 months ago, they hired a top-level team of data scientists. We have 75 scientists in-house, but they've never had data scientists who don't work with test tubes, they work with data. Brought them in, got a whole team of people using AI. They've been developing algorithms and everything out of the medical information. All these people, that's this thing. It doesn't like being just left alone. All right, calm.
Just like your wife.
The opposite may be true. In my case. We won't go there. The algorithms, you can tell so much because we've asked health questions of all those 15 million people and all those 26 million scans. The leading, in the world, the largest university doesn't have 1 million records of data points like this. We've got 26 million. We could have sold it to Amazon or Google or someone for hundreds of millions of dollars on its own. They kept it, and finally we're using it.
Is that the
Fully.
age lock referring to? Is that what they call it?
Some of that was used in that, yes.
Yeah.
But this goes way beyond that because of what's happened with AI. They've spent over 200 million US in the last 18 months, and it's not on this building, this little round thing. I'm sure that we could release this next week, and the week after, Temu will have one pop up on your Facebook page for $19.95 delivered to your door. That'll have much nicer flashing lights. Now, it won't do anything, but it'll work as well as most of their things, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is the data behind it, the AI that drives it. That means we can update it the whole time. We can improve the firmware, we can do all that, and not replace that. But when you plug it in, because it plugs to an app. Anyway, we'll go through this and I'll show you. Basically, it's a color chart, right? And what we've found is that those 20 million odd records, we know that low intakes of fruit and veg and all this, people score down here, higher they score up here. Okay, now I'm going to show you some graphs. I don't mean to bore you to death. I find them fascinating, but if you hate graphs, it'll take a minute. But it's really clear once you see this. Okay, out of all the 20 odd million scans that they were able to utilize as clean information, this is the results. So 6% of people were in the lowest, 0.6 of people were in the highest. Now, and you can see the balance. Now, let's start playing with the data and see what happens. What if we know all those lifestyle things affect it? So let's go. What if someone never took Life Pack, which is our core nutritional product? They smoked cigarettes, they didn't eat even 2 servings of fruit and veg a day, and they were overweight. So all these things are on here, right? That's their scores. Now, go back. That's the average. That's that per people. This is larger numbers than any study that's ever been done out there. Now, let's just get them to change one lifestyle thing. They stop smoking. Watch what happens to this chart when they just stop smoking. That one thing. Let's say that they decide to have a bit more active lifestyle and lose a bit of weight. Watch what happens. Remember I told you before when I was really heavy, I was still taking all the supplements, but on these I would score an average of 30 to 34,000. I could never get above it. I lost the weight. Within a year I was scoring at the top end. I did not change what I was taking as supplements. What happened is my body was now able to work better to do that. Okay, so we've done it. What if they started eating more fruit and veg? What if they took our Life Pack, but they were one of those people that we get quite often who'll say, well, I know it's a great product, but it's expensive, so I'm only going to take it once a day. And we don't like that because we know twice a day is better, but it happens. People got the reality, everyone's got a budget. So they take this Life Pack just once. Watch what happens. And watch what happens if they go to twice. You go back to the first one, was the smoker, to the end one. That's we can make a massive difference in people's lives by helping them, giving them biomarkers to improve, but we couldn't take it out to the world in the same way with this. When we get this up and running, and people who build a business to, say, over $4,000 or $5,000 a month right now, turnover, not profit, and get someone else doing that, can get a hold of one of these potentially in November. Anyone that's built that business can get a hold of one in February when they'll be much more widely available, and you'll be able to just buy them. They haven't finalised the price, but we're going to be looking around the 500 Australian dollars for that, and use them in their business all the time. What a great, you could start a business costs a few $100, and you're out there and you can do the world. This just charges up off a USB cord. Okay, let's go to this. So what we're showing is avoiding oxidation, boosting their nutrition, optimizing fitness, and start supplementing. So we're taking a 4-track approach to this. This is what it looks like. Obviously you've seen this little thing. Mine does not connect into the apps at the moment. Why? Because it's a prototype. And the apps are what they're still 2 generations away from this being finalised. And I say that to people, well, that's a long way off. And I go, well, actually, since we've been on that trip in Greece, they've improved 3 generations. So They were 5 generations away there. There's several things. One is you've got people with all different skin types, like oily, dry, everything else, combined with different skin colours, because it's reading light. So if you're from the Sudan, it's gonna look very different than mine on it for light to read it. Making it read accurately for everyone that's a issue that's the AI type issue, right? It's getting it accurate and consistent. So this is why it's a prototype. I have to give this back in about 10 days. There's 2 of them in Australia at the moment. We give them back and then they'll extract a lot of stuff out of them, of how the machine worked and things. But they don't want it plugged into this because they know these apps are not quite accurate enough yet. They will be by the time we launch them. So you can hook it so it will go to a phone or to a iPad or something like that, whichever you prefer. If you're in a business situation, a doctor's office or something, you might like it like that. If we're just talking to someone, I personally just use it on the phone. And it shows them more detail. When you see this tonight, it won't show you the number because it doesn't show on this, it shows on the apps. Now, this is where the money went in the back end. Oh. If I can work the technology. This is where a lot of stuff, money goes in. But what we're able to do is then create a customer engagement. We're building an ecosystem around this so that we can have a community of people improving their wellness all around the world and getting supported. And in our business, in direct selling, we have some advantages like any business does, but we have some disadvantages like any business does. Our biggest advantage is we tend to be really good at the relationship side and getting the first sale because of the trust. I've known Tina for years. I say this is really good. She's probably willing to try it at least once because we know each other. Where are we really bad at it? We're really, really bad at follow-up and repeat sales. So we're automating all that stuff and getting it right so that it can do a lot more. Now, we're able to take all these things and create a duplicable system within the business that can help people, that can also build a lot more business. And if we can double our business in Australia, that's an extra $70-80 million a year just off this, which I don't think is dramatic at all as far as what it could do. It might do a lot more. Oh, where are we? I have big fingers and it's got little buttons. Okay, so how's it work? We come along, we do a score on this, okay? So we go over here. When this flashes, I'm going to get you to put your finger out. The big thing is we've got to cover so there's no light coming, right? If you've got really little fingers, use your thumb.
It's gonna be red.
You were right. Why did you predict that? That's the lowest score, right? Why did you predict that?
Because I've used that at Expo.
She knew what it was that. She's tried it before. Okay. So someone gets their score, they're naturally going to say what, I think you were going to ask me, what's it mean, what's it going to do? Okay, great. Give me your phone number and it's going to send her a report explaining what this means, also with some lifestyle things that we've talked about, because there's 4 things, but diet and everything else, and product recommendations that you can put on subscription. Think auto ship. So if you start taking the supplements, they're going to show up on your door every month at the same time so you never run out. And we'll give you a discount for doing that, but it's better for you. What a lot of people do, they go buy their vitamins, 25th of the month they run out, I'll get some tomorrow. Oh, I was busy. Now it's the 2nd of the next month and they get them. That won't improve your health because in your blood it's not staying high. So we set it up so it's all automated. That's simple. And then we've got a whole support system that's going to come back to you with ideas, with help, not just on selling your product, but on a whole thought of things and questions that you can answer, that I can jump in and be personal contact with you as well, because we've done that, but that it's there all the time. Makes me look really professional as a business owner. Makes you feel really good that we care, rather than, you know, just, oh, I sold her that stuff and out the door. We got a 40-year head start on the industry. We started a long time ago. Well, the company started in 84, but we started our first nutritional product. It's not the same life back today as it was then. We keep changing the formula. But it's been over 20 years since we brought this out. So we got this huge head start before we even get over near Prysm. Now, the next 5 years, we get the Prysm out in the marketplace. We also, about 3 years ago, bought a DNA testing company in the US. And it still tests DNA, we just don't use it in our business. It's still running as a separate business, but it's in-house, and we're looking at it because we're going to be able to do that as well. Now, there's two problems that we've got to solve before we can do that. One is, how do you collect the DNA? Because there's different methods of doing so. Most people don't like the idea of pricking themselves and doing blood. It's not a fun idea. A lot of people don't like the idea of spitting in a cup and sending it off. That's one issue, right? Is the testing methodology. And it's the old thing, there's more than one way to skin a cat. They've got to find the right one. Secondly is another major issue, and that's privacy. Because I don't know about you, but I'd be very uncomfortable just sending my DNA off to somewhere online. Other people aren't. Two of my daughters sent their stuff to that Ancestry and did all that stuff. I wouldn't do that, but they did. Right? Everyone's different. But there's enough people out there concerned about the privacy issue that we've got to address it before we ever even consider releasing it as a business tool. Once we do that, that's more feedback into our system so that the AI can come up with even more wellness recommendations. We're then looking at moving towards the wearables market. The first thing we'll do is make this so it can interconnect with existing wearables from other companies. Then we'll look at our own wearables. And wearables is the big growth trend in wellness devices, by the way. I mean, Samsung's now released a device you put on that measures all sorts of health markers. And people said, won't that affect you? And I said, yeah, well, it's great. Gets people more familiar, and they go, huh? And I said, guess what they don't have? 26 million data points. All the info behind it to build your AI. AI is really a misnomer. It's computer learning. Right? So you've got to put the data in that they can learn from. And they simply don't have that. They're selling a product as a product. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying it's at a whole different level. The object we want to get to within the next 5 years is being able to create a digital twin. And the digital twin is where, well, this is the perfect, health-wise, version of you, and so you can do things. We want to do that not only on the nutrition side, obviously, with intelligent nutrition, but we also want to do it with intelligent beauty and lifestyle. So it gives a big area for growth for us. Where are we at now? Well, really, there's two of us running two of these units in the country being used. Later this year, come November, we'll put, now that's worldwide, sorry, not in Australia, the numbers. We will put some of these into the marketplace here. Then come February next year, we will put a lot more in the marketplace. Our goal, manufacturing-wise, is to get to 10,000 a month by then. We've got 4 manufacturing facilities around the world. People say, why would you do that? Why not just have a bigger one? We live in a world of tariffs, if you haven't been watching the news, and it's an ever-changing world. So we have manufacturing facilities in 4 different locations in the world, so we can ship them all around the world and keep the costs at a reasonable level. That's really important. All those will manufacture to the same level. The manufacturing part is the easy part. I know that sounds ridiculous if anyone's been in manufacturing stuff, but in this case, it's the AI, the algorithms, everything that's the really complex bit. It's the stuff behind the scenes is what's critical, not, it needs that's the end piece we all need, but it's the other. And then we will run all through next year with this as a business tool. As we move into another year after that, we may even look at taking it so that consumers can buy one if they want to. Because as this whole wellness thing takes off, I can see that. We've already had, I know in England, I had someone in our team the other day, they've got some people who are in professional football over there, what we call soccer. They don't seem to know what soccer is, they call football. They've never seen state origin, Don. These guys work with 5 of the top things. They said, well, they're all going to want their own, and they'll want a few each for the teams so they can help the medical people in the teams and the nutritionists and everything, help them maximise. So there is some market out there for that, but I think the biggest part is us taking it out there to the world. So we're at this very, very pre-launch stage at the moment of this, and it's this 15 seconds. By the way, that first model I showed you of the big one of these on the picture, your hand was on there for about 5 minutes. So it's taking 234,000 measurements in that 15 seconds.
How many?
234,000 measurements, of which about 100,000 end up being used. It dictates which ones are relevant and which ones aren't for each person, slightly different. That's why if you put your finger on it and there's light showing out the side, it makes it far less accurate, and you'll be the ones that get different results. Interesting, the result was consistent because you'd done it before and said she knew what it was going to be. Just like I had a pretty good idea. Mine had come back radically different. I didn't know something's up. Either I had some light escape. Saturday we were in Sydney doing this. Lady was there with her 8-year-old daughter. We could not find a finger big enough to not have a little bit of light. Scientific genius that I am said, take her shoes off. And we used her big toe. And it worked. And we did it 3 times in a row and we got the same score every time. The other times we were getting radically different scores. It works off your extremities. Toes are extremities. So it worked just fine. And of course the 8-year-old girl just loved that, right?
Can I ask what her...
She was about mid-range, actually, on the up here, which was pretty high for a kid. Her mum is pretty health conscious, but that's actually getting around here with a kid is really unusual. Alison had a guy down last week over in north side of Brisbane there, and he scored up in here. And he wasn't on our products. He's a very healthy guy, and oh, it's your cousin, yeah, Mr. IGA. Yeah, so you know, it's unusual. Now, genetically, we will score different, but he obviously, you know, is doing some things right with his health and things. Now, the company, New Skin. If you're not familiar, some of you have been around the business and know it. Some of you don't. It's a 40-year-old company. It does over $2 billion a year in sales worldwide. It operates in 40-some markets, 45 something. It's publicly traded on New York Stock Exchange, and we have 75 in-house scientists. About 30 of them work on the skincare side, and about 45 of them work on the supplement side. It's a little bit more complex science. The last 4 years, by the end of this year, we will have invested $500 million US dollars, so that's what, 800 million Aussie, in tech, 200 million of which went into the back end of this. Well, that's just a list of the countries. Our whole purpose, our whole mission is to get out there and do something that's helping people. You know, because if you do that, you will have a business that's longevity. Your customers won't want to go anywhere else if they trust you. And for our people in our business, our vision is that we become the world's leading affiliate program. Now, think about affiliate programs. oh, I'm going to be an Amazon affiliate. So you come up with a product and put it on Amazon and you're selling it and they take a cut for providing the platform and you're doing quite well. And then 6 months later you go, wait a minute, my sales drop right off. Because every time someone looks for it, Amazon now has a clone of your product that comes up first for about $5 less. And if you talk to people who've had a hit product on there, they can tell you all about how that one works. Because guess what? Guess who gets all the data, analyzes it, and its algorithms say, your product? Yeah, we can get that made. And they'll ring up and say, we want 100,000 of those, probably from the same manufacturer that you're using. That's scary. We're not here to do that. We got people, I've been in this business 30 years. Right? And Alison's been in this business 30 years, I think, close to it. That we wouldn't stay, A, if it didn't pay us good money, but B, if we didn't trust it. And that's the thing. It's having some values around business. Business is great, but sometimes people in business forget that it's not about the short term and just scoring $1 out of someone. You know, some businesses think like politicians. They don't think further than the next election. We're leadership driven, but customer obsessed. And what we mean by that is we've got to be obsessed with getting a result for that customer. But we also know the business will not grow from customers. The business will grow from leaders who come into business and build it. And we're at a stage where we need lots of leaders out there to get this out, to set up the distribution networks around Australia or around the world if you've got people outside Australia, because we will introduce these in every market. We're opening India on November 1st. This product is going in on opening day. Okay, so we're committed to getting this out everywhere. This is some of the products that made us #1 in the beauty and wellness industry. And I'd say, first, that's a beauty product. That's a bit of a combo between beauty and wellness. That's beauty. Of course, keeping your skin really clean, there's a health aspect to it as well. And this, the Well Spa, is actually a sort of wellness product with a beauty, less of a focus. And then obviously this goes to pure wellness. And so that's the area we've been working in. We do that. It's not us saying we're #1. That's us being said that by Euromonitor, which monitors all of the beauty and wellness industry. We're the only company out there that has a truly integrated line between the skincare, the beauty side, and the wellness side. And you go, well, no, lots of companies sell both. Yes, they do. However, let's pick an example. Anyone heard of Herbalife? Okay, Herbalife's a big company. They do similar amount of business worldwide than we do. Some countries we're bigger in than they are. Some they're bigger than us. And you say, well, they do both. They do. 90% nutrition, 10% skincare. You take some other companies, they'll do 90% skincare, 10%. And it's mostly their own people that buy it. Our sales are about 50-50. And there's really no one else out there in the industry that does that. That's enabled us to constantly move forward and also to integrate the results between the two. Like if you've tried out Collagen Plus, well, everyone's got collagen. Yeah, but go look at the studies on the lack of absorption of collagen, why it won't work for most people. And then look at the studies on why this does work, and that's the plus bit. Because it's not just collagen. But we've got that full portfolio. Now, also, it's not just about businesses making money. I had the great pleasure to go to Malawi with this guy who's named Steve Lund, one of the founders of the company. And that's in Malawi. And Alison had the great thing of going there. Didn't you go with your daughter or something? Yeah. Yes. So she's been there as well. They wouldn't let Don in the country. We don't know why. You know, but Lynn and I, my wife and I went there, and it is really life-changing to see what we do. We're feeding so many kids with this. I think it's 120,000 average children a day we are feeding with targeted supplementation. We're not selling it, we are using some of the profits from the company producing nutrient-dense meals for people in parts of the world that miss out. And so far we've given away over 850 million meals with not 1 cent of government money, not one ad on TV, not a whole bunch of paid people. When you give something, it goes there. And we're going to hit 1 billion of those in the next couple of years, which is pretty incredible. So we get out there to the parts of the world that are underserved by things. I had the good fortune taking 2 of my daughters to the Philippines on a tour talking about this. And the Philippines, like many countries, has parts of it are very wealthy. We were staying in a gorgeous 5-star hotel. I was on a roll-away bed because my 2 daughters knocked off the beautiful big king bed. But anyway, which they said, swore daddy they wouldn't do that, but then got there immediately. But they went out, we were going out to places where kids are literally starving. And they've never seen that. I mean, you grew up in Australia, you have never seen that. When you start seeing it, you realise, wow, we're actually making a difference. We're not trying to, but we say, hey, you can take a little bit of this money, give it to someone, and it's good for everyone. And as I said before, we're about to launch into India in November. That's 1.5 billion people, and it's one of the youngest countries in the world. The average age the median is 28. If you look at Australia, it says 65% of the population under 35. If you did in Australia, it's the exact reverse. 65% of the population would be over 35. And look at the number in here. I mean, it's massive. There's only 25 million people in Australia. Wow. You know, I mentioned Herbalife before. They're doing $1 billion a year in India. They went up $200 million last year. Now, half the countries we operate in the world alongside of them, we do more business than they do. That gives me great hope for that Indian market, because it says to me, not tomorrow, not next year, they've been there 15 years or 18 years. Maybe 5, maybe 10 years, we're going to do more business than they do there. We're going to do over 100 million US dollars, 160 million Aussie dollars there next year. Absolute minimum when we go in. And this goes back again to this personalised thing. Let's look at India and look at the things they're lacking and they've got. Like in India, they got heaps of magnesium in their diet. The Indian population gets a better magnesium levels than we have. But look at the folate levels. Our folate levels are actually quite high. In India, 60 times the level of serious complications in pregnancy involving tubular pregnancies, purely because of folate. That's it. That's the reason. Now look what happens when we're going into India. We're not taking the products from here. We designed them for there. Guess what we designed them to fix? Right? So we've gone, looked at local situation, developed a local product, take it in, so we can make a difference. Now when the people do that and they get a difference, guess what? They're going to be able to measure it. So you've got a Herbalife there doing $1 billion a year, can't measure their results. So we go in and say, well, why don't you try ours? Well, I've been taking that and everything else. Well, we can show you and measure it, and if ours doesn't work, we'll give you your money back. I don't know. I think there's a competitive advantage in there, if you ask me. By the way, we do that here when we have these out, we have a number of nutritional products that are guaranteed to raise your score given a couple months, or we give them their money back. Try that at the local health food store. You know, go buy some Blackmore, see if they do that. So what's in it for you? If you look at this and you say, okay, I can see there's a big market. If you guys get this right, this could really go. You put a lot of money into it. What's it test? Well, it's testing it's not, this just tests for antioxidants. This tests for antioxidants using a blue light, which is in the LEDs, but there's 7 more colours to come, and they've already nailed several of them, about 4 of them, exactly the health marker they want, that it measures in us, different ones. They're just getting it so it's completely reliable. As they do, they can just introduce this as a firmware upgrade. We don't have to change this. It's built for that. It's not like we're going to turn it in every 6 months. We will probably have some of those by the time we're in full launch next year. Plus, we take the info that's now in AI from those 20-some million things, and we add that in, so we're getting a wider picture than this. It's one reason they actually score a little differently, and they want to differentiate. This is not just a little version of this. It's so much more. It's the difference between, if this is 1965 Volkswagen, this is your latest top-end Tesla or something. You know, yes, they'll both get you from A to B in some ways, but they do a whole lot of different stuff. The business model, I mean, that's when you say, well, does this make any sense for me? Well, let's look at it. We're leadership driven, but customer obsessed. The point I'm talking about today is, yes, it's critical that we have products and services that make the customers love us. That's that ecosystem we're building around it, but that's also where we need people to come in and leadership to go out there and recruit and train and develop distribution teams to get this stuff out there so that they've got dozens of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people out there doing this. It's no different than Subway. When I was working at Elders and looking for another business, there was no Subway in Toowoomba then, there was no Domino's Pizza, which takes you back a few years. I looked at bringing the first Domino's Pizza here, and I am allergic to gluten. If I ate one of their pizzas, I'd be sick for a week. And here am I seriously looking at it, and I seriously looked at a Subway, which would have been the first one here. And you look, if you work in a Subway, you can make a little bit of money. If you own a Subway, you can make a bit more. If you own 10 Subways, then you start making a lot. And you look at all the top owners and those sort of things, they've got more than one. That's what this leadership side's about. We use some of our AI stuff in the data, not on the health side, but on business. And we went back 20 years. Last year we did this. And we looked, what was the differences between someone who was really successful and stayed in the business, someone that wasn't. And rather than take opinions, and people go, oh, well, I think it's because of this, and I think it's because of that, and I'm the world's greatest pontificator and waffler about all my theories on life. But the reality is they want to look at facts. And they found something. If you went out and you got 3 customers, your success level was so much higher than someone that got 2 or 1. Not a third higher, like 5 and 10 times more. And you go, what? There's something in this power of 3. If you went out and introduced 3 people into your business team, you were so much more successful than someone that introduced 2. The big jump was at 3. You know how you'll see graphs and there'll be, at some point, it's like this, it's at 3. If you had 3 business teams in your group, you would do that. And we've developed the business model around that. And I'll show you what I mean as I get into the incomes. Basically, there's 3 areas in this business. People usually start out, they like the products or the whatever service it is, and they go, that's great. They start using it. They tell some people, so they get a few customers, and maybe they tell a couple of people to join the business. And they make themselves, you know, I don't know, in the hundreds. Maybe they make themselves $500, $600, $700 a month. Something. Then some of those people go, hey, if I built a team of people and continued to look after my customer base as well, that'd be better. And those people might make $1,000 to $5,000 a month. And that's probably our biggest solid area is people. And then you get a few nut jobs like Alison McMillan, if you know her, you know what I mean. You know, who are over here, who've gone and built businesses that do millions and millions of dollars a year in sales, and as you know, she can buy drinks and dinner afterwards because you know, squillions, McSquillion we call it. You know, then you're looking sort of over the 10,000 a month, and you stop and think at this point, people start thinking, maybe I could do this full time. They don't have to, they can stay part time forever. But that's really it breaks down like that. And if we take it to the numbers, the actual average incomes, these are US dollars, because it's the closest thing to an international currency. So let's look. Obviously these people aren't making much, they're the ones I was talking about that are just using it, telling a few friends. But let's look, this is what it calls Ruby Partner. That's someone who's built 3 teams. Look at the jump in income. Tick, 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 bang! Oh, power of 3. And then you look down at the McMillions thing. Oh, I'll get her in trouble yet. You know. She'll beat me later. I'll run outside to the car and leave. And by the time you're down here, the average incomes starts getting pretty serious. Now, with things like this, if you can get in on a wave per month, not per year.
No.
Otherwise you'll be back at Elvis, that's what they want. But if you think about it, if you can get in on a wave, that's the other thing we've found is you've got something new and exciting and different, then people will join. Because when it's the same old, they go, oh yeah, I heard about that music, I know. But when it's something new and different and exciting, then it all gets much more interesting. So, get more interesting if this doesn't die. No, I charged it up before. I was somewhere the other day and I'd forgotten to charge it. Not good. Realistically, this business is not McDonald's. It's about building it your way. We are not going to, there is a duplication model and we'll teach you about the power of 3 and what to do there, but it's not micromanaged like a McDonald's where you go keep those fries in there for 3.5 minutes or whatever it is in the deep fry. You get to build your business your way so you can have it and can positively represent the lifestyle that you want, the livelihood, how you want to do it. Alison does a business differently than I do. Tina does it a bit differently than Alison. It's really, that's the beauty. Some people go, well, should everyone be exactly the same? Really? Why? This restaurant's different from some other restaurant. I'm not sure McDonald's is the greatest example. You know, it's great from a profit center point of view, but it's not something that, you know, you get to put your mark on. They're lucky if they let you put a little photo of yourself as the owner up in the corner. But this is really, you know, where we're at. You've got what we refer to as truly intelligent wellness. And being able to take that out. What's one of the biggest problems in business is getting people to stop and listen to you. That's why people have big billboards, pay huge money on Facebook or, you know, run ads on TV. Guess what? That's a pretty good conversation starter. What are you doing? Well, I'm doing this. And before you can even get it, it's a great stop because you just talk about it and show them a slide or show them something. This is coming. We can get you on the supplements now so you'll score well when it's here and you can start get going and build a team, because if you've got a team of people, when this launches, you're going to be in a much better position than someone who's just on their own doing it, because you've got more leverage. And so that's really where we go with it. I'm quite happy to take questions. This thing does buzz, I've never noticed that. It's that. I must have had it on a cloth or something and it goes quiet, but on that it makes little noises. I'll pass it around, people can have a play with it. Just remember, like I said, if your finger's very small, use your thumb. I'll find it's helpful. That little light needs to be on, the one in the center. When that stops, give it a minute and it'll recycle. But I'm happy if anyone's got a question, I'm more than happy to answer. I'm no scientist, but I'll give it a general.
I remember
Yes.
that there was something about
hang on.